I'm Brandon Dutcher, Senior Vice President at the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs, and I'm here with Dr. Russell Moore, who is the President of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Convention. Good to be with you today.
Good to be with you.
You're here today at OCPA talking about religious liberty as it relates to the Hobby Lobby case. One issue we talk about quite a bit here is school choice, whether it's vouchers or tax credits or education savings account or whatever the policy mechanism may be. We make the argument that parents should have choices, and we point to the economic arguments and what the social science says about the effectiveness of school choice. But what about religious liberty? Is there a religious liberty argument to be made for parental choice in education?
Well, one of the arguments is, of course, that the primary responsibility for education for children rests with parents. It's not ultimately the responsibility of the state or the neighborhood, it's the responsibility of parents. That doesn't mean that we're not all involved in education, but what we need is a healthy pluralism in the public square where we enable parents to have more options, not fewer options, in the best interests of their children. So we need to work toward healthy, thriving public schools, healthy, thriving private schools, healthy, thriving Christian schools of various sorts, and equipping parents to homeschool. And so to give parents the best options for their children, and that's going to differ often from family to family as to what they consider to be in the best interest of their children. And sometimes it's going to differ based upon the specific needs of those children. But we need a state that doesn't stand in the way of those options, but creates and allows that to flourish.
If the state says we're going to compel attendance and we're going to extract large sums of money from parents, if that hinders the ability of some parents to provide what they feel is a Christian duty to provide a Christ-centered education, is that a violation of religious liberty, or should the state say, okay, we are going to compel, but since we're taking this money from you, we're going to give you a tax break or a voucher or something to allow you to fulfill your duty?
It can if the state inhibits parents from taking responsibility for what they believe to be in the best interest of their children, teaching them in a religious context with a Christian worldview or whatever worldview that they hold religiously. Yes, that can inhibit that, which means that what the state ought to do is to say, we have an interest in making sure that children are educated, but we don't need to have a state monopoly on how that's being done. And so I'm opposed to the state coming in and directly funding religious schools. I don't want that as a Christian, because I know what happens as soon as they start funding us directly. They start coming in and trying to chip away our religious distinctives. But that's a very different thing from saying to parents, we're going to enable you to take the money that you have through voucher, through tax credit, whatever means, to educate your children in the way that you see best. And I think the GI Bill is a good example of how that can work. GI Bill comes to veterans, they can use it at Oklahoma State University, or they could use it at Oklahoma Baptist University, or they could go to Notre Dame, or they could go to Brigham Young. I think that that's a good model. It worked, it didn't establish a religion, and it gave options and flourishing for people. I think we ought to do that with our school system as well.
Dr. Moore, thank you for your time.
Thank you.